it's just as far as going to Europe. You can see how close Rio is to Africa. So you can see that's almost like a shorter trip going from Africa to Brazil than it is from just about going from the States. So you can see, so I flew down from Tampa through Miami. We're going to go over flights as well. And down to Rio is about 8 hours out of Miami. So 1 hour from Tampa to Miami, and then 8 hours down to Rio, Brazil, here in the Eastern Coast. So, typically, the flights are going to be at night, from Florida in general. We're going to get into the travel and things like that here shortly. But, it's about an 8 hour flight. Typically, you'll leave at like 9 or 10 at night, arrive at like 8 or 9 in the morning into Rio de Janeiro. GIG is the airport code, Rio Airport, right? So we'll stop right. All right. So the next thing, we'll go ahead and stop my share screen for a quick sec. But the next thing, the language in Rio, Brazil is Portuguese. So, it's kind of funny, right? Because all for the most part, everywhere in Latin America is Spanish, right? You go to Colombia, you go to Dominican Republic, you go to Mexico, it's Spanish pretty much everywhere. But in Brazil, they speak Portuguese. So just kind of know that, when you get ready to go to Brazil, in my humble opinion, it's always a good idea to brush up on the local language before you go. Maybe, download, a Rosetta Stone and do maybe a couple of modules on there just to say, hello, goodbye, you want to order a beer. How do you ask for, a conta, the bill, things like that in Portuguese. Like I said, Duolingo, Rosetta Stone, you can even do YouTube actually has like, for example, for Spanish, right? It's like Spanish while you sleep. So literally you can put it on like an 8 hour video on YouTube, and it literally has like, rain in the background. It actually helps you sleep at night, and it plays different Spanish phrases, at night while you're sleeping. If you can do Spanish while you sleep. They also have Portuguese while you sleep as well. So literally for 8 hours while you're sleeping, you can like kind of have that Portuguese kind of sunk into your subconscious. And it definitely helps with, pronunciation, different things like that. So there's definitely different ways, free ways you can go online and, learn, Portuguese. I'd highly recommend, obviously, you want to use Google Translate as a lifesaver. Pretty much, you go anywhere in the world, use Google Translate, and it's of course, you'd like to, speak, the native language, right? You want to go to Brazil, you want to be able to speak some Portuguese, but don't let that stop you. People say, oh, I hear a lot of times people that travel go, oh, don't go to the country and you don't know the language, different things like that. I totally disagree. I think there's nothing wrong if you speak no Spanish, no Portuguese, just go anyways, wing it. Use your Google Translate. That'll help you out. I would rather go and use Google Translate, and at least I got to experience it and learn while I was there, as opposed to, obviously you want to try to speak it, but as opposed to not going and what I'm going to wait a 6 months to a year to try to learn the language. Obviously, that's the ideal situation, but go anyways. Immerse yourselves, give it a shot. And what I would recommend people doing is obviously you want to use, download Google Translate, and then you can download the offline for free Portuguese package on your phone. So that way, if you don't have connection to the internet, you still have the Portuguese package on your inside of Google Translate. So you have offline translation. So that'll kind of help you out. There's also other, the Time Kettle X1 language translator. It's like kind of like a little bit of a high end. You can get like the earbuds, it's like a little interpreter hub to where like, hey, I can put an earbud in my ear. There'll be an interpreter hub here. You put an earbud in your ear. I can speak into the interpreter English and it'll come out Portuguese. And if you have someone that's there, you can actually both, use the just the earbuds themselves as a cheaper version. I think that's like $300, or you can use the full on interpreter hub, which is like $750, and that thing is awesome. I've actually got one myself. I can speak English into it, and then it comes out Portuguese on the other end. They'll speak in Portuguese and it'll come out English, and you can have a one-on-one conversation with a native speaker. I mean, it's next level, and I can only imagine over the next 5 years what AI is going to do with those language apps. Right now, there is a little bit of a delay, and you got to kind of speak clearly and through it, and you don't want a bunch of background noise. But can you imagine in 5 years if they've got that kind of, they've got those language apps right now? And then, the X1 interpreter hub, you can actually connect it to your computer, and you can have Zoom calls with other, in another language. So, for example, I'm on Zoom. I'm an American. I'm having a Zoom call with a Brazilian person who's speaking Portuguese on the other end. On their Zoom, I can plug in my interpreter on my end into your web app. I can speak English. It'll come out on Zoom on the other end in Portuguese, and if they've got an interpreter hub on their end, it'll come back the other way. And I think you can do that with multiple languages from multiple different locations. You can kind of choose. So those you can connect like up to like 20 or 30 interpreter hubs at one time. You can have like an international conversation. I think that's going to be the future of business, right? I'm doing business with someone in Brazil, in Colombia, in China. I can speak in English. It comes out. Chinese on the other end, things like that. So I think the next level of language, to remove those language barriers is going to be these interpreter hubs. And I mean, think about in the past, right? Maybe what, 10, 20 years ago, there was no Google, 20 years ago, there was no Google Translate back in the 80s and 90s. And you just had to go out there and try to learn the language. And you were just kind of like, there was no like, internet to tell you what restaurants you can go to, or, Uber for somebody to come pick. I mean, it's revolutionized the way we travel. It's so much easier to travel because you can look up what you want to do before you get there. You can have a language app to help you translate the language when you get down there. So it's just an amazing opportunity to travel right now. All right. Let's see. So, all right, we kind of covered that. So let's talk about airline travel. All right. Take my notes here. So airline travel. So let's talk about how you get there. All right. So, for flying to Rio, many airlines offer direct flights from major US cities like Miami, Houston, I believe Dallas does. I think Charlotte, maybe, yeah, believe Dallas does, Atlanta, New York, things like that. So, for example, if you're going through Miami, you're going to be flying on American Airlines. If you're going through, Houston, you're going to be flying on United or Copa Airlines to go down to Brazil. I think if you're going through like Atlanta, you're going to be flying on Delta. So, matter of fact, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen again. We're going to look at a couple of flights here. All right, so share screen again. Right. So I kind of went ahead and pre-populated, just kind of like, hey, I'm in Tampa, Florida, and I'm going to be flying down to Rio, Brazil. I'm going to leave this Thursday, February 20th, and excuse me, next month, February 20th, and then come back on February 27th. So you can kind of see, what the pricing is looking like, right? For the, two stop, that's a longer, travel time. That's going to be about $613. Let's just say right here on American Airlines, right? I can fly at 5:30 p.m. or 8:47 p.m. That's actually the flight I took. One stop in Miami for an hour and a half, and then get to Brazil, the next morning at 9:30 in the morning. So, for example, if you kind of explode this, you can see, hey, from Tampa, I go to Tampa, Miami, I'm there for an hour, and then just pretty much go to your gate, and then you're going to go to Rio Galileo International Airport. GIG is the code, and then you can also see, hey, does this flight offer Wi-Fi? Wi-Fi is free. In-seat power outlets. Streaming media, things like that. So think about it, right. You're going to be on a flight for pretty much 8 hours from Miami to Rio, Brazil. It's important to know whether you're going to have Wi-Fi or not. It makes your flight that much enjoyable. I think if you fly like, I think you can fly like Avianca, right? You can go from like, I think Tampa just opened up a nonstop flight from Tampa to Bogota. I think I heard that. I haven't checked that out. But let's just say you're flying through like Bogota in Colombia. Does Avianca? I think they don't have Wi-Fi on the flight. So imagine, you can. I personally don't mind paying $30, so that way I have Wi-Fi. You can watch YouTube videos, you can email and chat with people and different things like that. Just something to keep yourself entertained for the next 8 hours, things like that. So I think that's very, very valuable. So there's definitely a couple options, right? You can fly American Airlines. I'm in Tampa, so the main hub I'm going to go through is going to be Miami. If you found like a more inexpensive flight, sometimes you can go through Dallas, I believe, for American. And then, typically if you've got like status with American, there's like an international, and you have a little bit more of a layover in Miami. There's a lounge you can go to for free drinks, free food. Miami pretty much has everything.